It's happening, people. Hello, welcome, good evening. It's virtual Cobalt Poets. Glad to have you here with us. My name is Rick Lupert. I'm the MC of this here event tonight. In addition to our open reading, our featured reader is Mr. Gilbert Arzola. Gilbert, very happy to have you with us. Thank you for making time to be here with us. Looking forward to your reading. Before we get to Gilbert, we're going to have a chunk of our open reading. If you would like to participate in the open reading and you haven't already done so, send me a message in the chat and I will be happy to add you to the list. As always, you can read up to 2 poems. That is our maximum in the open reading. And furthermore, our suggested time limit is less is more. There you go. That's all that stuff. You should have the chat room open. The chat room is available for you to interact with each other in your current state of mutedness. It's a good place to chat with each other, react to the poems that you hear being spoken, post links of things that you would like to people to click on if you mention something when you are reading. It's a good place to do that. Send each other private messages and set up secret rendezvous. Whatever you would like to do in the chat, it is available for you to do. We also have a 1 drink minimum here at the Cobalt Cafe. Make sure you have a beverage with you to I don't know why, just do it, people. It's one of the rules. There you go. That's everything I need to tell you before we get going. And we're going to get going with me asking you if anybody has any questions. Cathabella, yes.
Have you had any rainforest experiences, Rick?
I've had rain experiences and forest experiences. I don't know that I've ever had them simultaneously.
Okay.
I feel I've been in a forest when it's raining, so maybe that's 3 of 4 requirements of being in a rainforest. The 4th one being it actually being a rainforest. So does that count? That's like a 75%.
I think that counts.
Okay.
Thank you.
Sure. Great. All right. Thank you, Cathabella. Martin, yes.
Hello, Rick. I was just wondering, do you have a favorite sci-fi and or fantasy author?
Yes. Hold on a sec. Some unintended flute was about to become the soundtrack of my answer. Probably it's a toss-up between Harlan Ellison and Douglas Adams.
Awesome. Those are both very good ones. My favorite has always been Jack Vance with Anne McCaffrey in 2nd place.
Dragon Riders of Pern. That was her, was it not? Yes. Okay.
Yes.
I don't think I read that, but in high school I had friends reading it, and they had the books with them a lot. So,
well,
I'm only half impressive with that knowledge.
Well, they maybe some references to that later tonight. We'll see.
Let's find out. Okay. Thank you, Martin. Any other questions? All right. Well, let's get this show on the road then. 5 readers, and then our featured reader. Please welcome our first reader, the collab, Cathabella, along with Siggy and Jackie. Welcome to all of you.
Thank you, Rick. And we have our Rick playing along with us on a shakuhachi. I'll share screen. Try again. Oops. Tell me when it's on, Rick. There we go. Okay, here we go. All right. Open this up more. All right, so we have a spicy affair in the rainforest. And we have 2 guests in our just with one little part for each of them in here, which Siggy can read or Jackie. So we'll start. Jackie.
The new puppy my friend adopted snuggles beside me, a perfect foot warmer, like in an old palace.
Wow. Her first overnight visit. Cold night, ancient house. He prepares the bed with a stone fresh from the oven.
Large and soft, just right to cuddle. 3-foot banana, the size of a small child. Comforted nighttime fares.
Yes, and you must have picked it in the rainforest. Here comes Jackie.
Panting with every step up the winding stairs, I pretend to marvel at the Great Wall.
Yeah, I can imagine that well. Louder than the conversation in their living room, the voices of Coqui in San Juan. I still have tree frogs in my head.
Palenque rainforest, a day trip from our home, lush and steamy. A walk to one of the 3 waterfalls, luxurious, cool.
And here's Roger. Do you want to go on with that, Siggy?
Damp from recent rains, sound of frogs croaking, moisture-laden air. Flowers burst out of trees, cross threshold into primordial world.
So beautiful. It's really true that happens. They burst right out of the tree trunks. And we also saw that in the conservatory at the Huntington. The flowers doing that was simulated primordial world. Long vines and roots of orchids swinging from trees. Every line in my travelogue with a dangling participle.
Better than sriracha, the spicy affair of chili pepper oil and Chinese cuisine. Borrowing his eraser every day. It's softer than mine, I told my seatmate, who made math fun.
A great forest walk, hearing the waterfall before seeing it. Amazing 15-feet drop. The trail is uneven and muddy, and some of us just in flip-flops.
And here's Diane. Costa Rican rainforest kissed by humidity under ferns, high as most treetops, toucans atop palms. Huntington Gardens Conservatory Rainforest exhibit. Our bouncy steps on their simulated bog made of recycled truck tires.
So many images.
Yeah. Wonderful. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Catabella.
That was fun.
Thank you, Cathabella, Jackie, Siggy, and Rick for helping us breathe a little bit with that rainforest infusion that the planet so sorely needs. Thank you so much.
I'm trying to find stop share. There we are. Okay. Thank you.
All right, cool. Glad we got that taken care of.
It
Thank you
was
guys
fun. Yes.
Thank you so much for opening up the reading for us. Round of applause for the collab, Cathabella, Jackie, and Siggy, and of course Rick. Good to have you guys with us, and fun to hear, Cathabella, that you hosted of the Funstons, who
Right.
used to come a little
Yeah.
bit more than they do now, but cool that Cobalt Poets are getting together in person out there in the world.
Yes, it was really fun, and they really enjoyed writing with us too. It's the first time we had Roger write so much. There was more. I couldn't put it all in, but he wrote a lot, and he's been in rainforest situations, as some of us have too.
There you go. All right. Well, round of applause for y'all. Thank you so much for being here. On deck is Jennifer Elise Wang. Please welcome now Ike Waltz. Hello, Ike.
Good evening. The U.S. Press and the 2025 World Press Freedom Day. I had been invited to write a piece for this year's World Press Freedom Day, published at Moonstone Press in Philadelphia. My piece turned out to be documentary poetry, or docu poetry as it is also called. So firstly, let us face the state of the American press per May 2025. While it may seem like you have limitless options, most of the media you consume is owned by one of 6 companies. In 2023, the 6 largest companies in the United States were Comcast, the Walt Disney Company, Charter Communications, Warner Brothers Discovery, Paramount Global, and Netflix. These 6 companies represent a significant concentration of media ownership and influence. And then the United States press is ranked 55 in the 2024 World Press Freedom Index. Furthermore, the US is ranked 55 out of 180 countries and territories, according to Reporters Without Borders. This presents a significant drop of 10 places from the previous year, marking a historic decline. Despite solid legal safeguards, however, the US Press Freedom Tracker reports that the number of journalists temporarily detained or harmed while covering turmoil and protests is on the rise. The number of journalists arrested and criminally charged jumped from 13 in 2018 to 59 in 2021. In the same period, the number of assaults on journalists jumped from 47 to 145. Hence my poem, US Press and the 2025 World Press Freedom Day. The American press created Trump 2015-2016. Good rating money was made overnight, indeed. The American press enjoyed Trump's 6th of January 2020 insurrection. High ratings, good money was made overnight, indeed. The American press had learned nothing from history like a Martin Niemöller, does not want to learn anything from history like a Germany, and again promoted a Hitler and Mussolini, fascism, just insane. Sorry, it's Trump 25, As good rating money was to be made overnight. It's just the American way. The American press loves Trump, has been ordered to love Trump, as the CEOs seem to say. And if they can milk Trumpism, as good rating money is to be made overnight, indeed, the CEOs say. The American press loves a MAGA freak show. As Trump makes money overnight, let's fire the naysayers. I'm good money indeed, Trump says. The American press does not care. Whatever hurts the nation, it's a short-term hype. And it surely sucks, as if there is no long-term plan. 2024 World Press Freedom rated the US press being number 55 in the world. Mind you, there are exceptions, few and far alarmingly lesser every day. The land of the greedy and corrupt. Oh yes, I screw you before you screw me. Sorry, I learned this too. The American press brainwashed the brave and the free into autocracy, dreaming that there is money to be made, but for whom they don't say. Corporations are people. That's why we can sell the lot, buy the lot, follow a leader, trust this leader, our Trumpster God. And MAGA stupidity dissolves our obese brain, feeds our money-hungry press. It's our daily freak show, okay? Our daily nightmare, our US press, where our freak show is our only claim to fame. Okay, buy this monster plane. Let's fire these last radicals speak out through the journalists, as in truth, there is no money to be made. So, brother, sister, look harder for these freedom fighters. They are indeed in need for your support. Saving our America, the beautiful. Second piece. Malcolm X, 60 years later. It is so much easier to assassinate a black man. His skin, his hair, his eyes, his mouth, his nose make him easy prey. Since there is no genetic basis for race, there is more genetic variation within any race. Yes, we are actually all brothers and sisters. So let the best man win. And Malcolm X was one of the best. Just don't let the white man kill. Thank you.
Couple of great poems from you tonight, Ike. Thank you so much for shining a light, which is happening in our world, and in that first piece, and the social consciousness spirit of equality in the second one. Thank you so much for being here. Round of applause for Ike Waltz. On deck, Julian Matthews. Please welcome now Jennifer Elise Wang. Hello, Jennifer.
Hey, I've got two. The first is a cover that I found from a piece I found in Red Rose Thorns. The title is Compulsory Heterosexuality, and it's by M.K. Zariel. Dear boys, I want to be a romance trope for you. Live inside forbidden love, lost love, straight love narratives. I put on Lana Del Rey and daydream of watching you act like a fool. You look like you dressed in the dark. It's annoying, but I love the way it feels to love you. I'm a heroine off the shelf of stock stereotypes, leading lady with a theme song that trend on TikTok. I feel like a rom-com heroine, purposefully thinking things I might or might not believe, like I actually like you. I want to love you like a straight girl on a silver screen, but you wave your hands in my face like an alien being. You are an alien being. Thank God you're an alien being. Thinking you're an alien being. Enemies to lovers plotline. Harlequin romantic suspense would be so damn proud. You still look like you dressed in the dark. It's still freaking annoying. In a romance novel, that would be the start of something. Does that mean I actually like you? And I'll put the text of the poem here so people can reference it. And then the second piece is a poem I discovered that I had written, because sometimes you forget stuff that you write at 3 a.m. And so, yeah, I just found it recently. It got tucked in one of my various Word docs, and it's called Two. Sometimes I wonder if monogamy is the right word when it's two people sharing their love, when you have love for both your partner and yourself. Then I wonder if that's true for me. I'm more like a glass half empty who needs their partner to pour more into my insecure, aloof self, so he ends up with less in order for me to feel adequate. Sometimes I ponder whether soulmates are two halves of a whole, like a soda split between us, or whether they're two separate entities becoming one, like a cocktail or homemade punch. I think we must be the second, like a bunch of orange juice diluting the vodka, which I've never drunk because it's toxic to me and I have enough poison in my veins. But even that I but even that can be diluted until I no longer hurt myself. And I think maybe we are a soda, homemade and split between two glasses, not completely full, but enough for the both of us.
How fun to discover something that you had forgotten about and perhaps didn't remember writing even as you were reading it. Happens to me sometimes, Jennifer. The things we have tucked away in our filing cabinets and files deep in the subfolders of our computer coming to light. Thank you so much for sharing that and the cover poem as well.
Thank you.
Round of applause for Jennifer Elise Wang. On deck, we got two more readers, and then our featured reader, Gilbert Arzola. On deck is Ken Scott. Please welcome now Julian Matthews. Hello, Julian.
Hi. May I share screen? Psalms. Once a friend looked at the lines in my hands and called them a palmist's nightmare. He said it as a joke. I saw it as a premonition. My hands were my bread and butter. My fingers tapped out my livelihood. I've rolled up sleeves and spat in them words, put gruel in my belly, refilled empty glasses. Now I only see half-baked psalms written in the palms, no doubting Thomases to test their holiness. I carry grief in them like cobblestones in the pockets of my heart. I cup love in them like starlings on a wire scared off by a hawk's shadow. They tug at kited dreams only to be scarred by rope burns, callous by clingy, clawing fantasies. These hands have yet to clasp any holy grail. They bear the sins of appeal, tellus, betrayal, and tangle lines crisscross like crocheted wounds. A stitch in time has healed none of mine. The second one is called Sacrifice. A woman was swallowed whole by a snake in Indonesia. Sacrifice. A snake swallowed a woman whole. How horrid to awaken and find yourself in an enclosed space, dark and alone. Once I played hide and seek, stayed quiet in a well-chosen spot, could hear the screeches and laughter of those being discovered in the distance. How clever am I thought to myself. But then, as time passed, no one came for me. I giggled softly, clattered the closet door a little to help the seeker. Still nothing. The darkness enveloping. Alone. Fearful. Their voices fading. Had they forgotten me? I imagined what it would be like to be wriggling inside a serpent. To be taken. No endgame in sight. wanting to step out of yourself and be found, yet remain stuck without any other option. The struggle within for so many is real. Perhaps the fruit offered to Eve then was just a compromise. Maybe she only agreed to it to save Adam. Sometimes we bite the bitter to maintain the status quo. Sometimes we stay even when we know better. Dissenting voices, mere echoes afar. Maybe they sneered, moved on, and finally left the couple alone. Here they were in happier times. Here are Red Riding Hood and her grandma inside the wolf. Here is the hunter that got lost in the forest and never found them. Here are Hansel and Gretel in the witch's oven. Here is Pinocchio, left to rot in a closet. Here is the beast, stuck in the dungeon of his castle, never to transform. Here is the woman, inside the snake, not the other way around. Here is the sacrifice, the compromise, the atonement, and why you are still alive. Thank you.
Julian, thank you very much. Good poems. I'm very sad at the idea that Pinocchio might just be idle inside a closet. I don't know if we need to start a fundraiser to help get him out of there. Let me know what I can do. And thank you so much for being here and for your fine work, as always. Round of applause for Julian Matthews. On deck is our featured reader, Gilbert Arzola. Please welcome now Ken Scott. Hello, Ken.
Good evening, everyone. Good evening. I'm only going to do one piece this evening, and it's my reflections on aging and the wisdom that I've learned and what I would have to do to pass that wisdom on. But it's also some personal reflections on the problems with aging. So this piece is called Old Man to Young Man. The voices in my head have been relentless these days. As my lack of career success and fortune and friends and marriage and family have now been augmented by the deaths of both parents and other elder relatives and dear friends, only to be further amplified by the aging of my body. And every day they scream the same things, their words mercilessly affirmed by the hustle culture of modern American society. Why are you still here, old man? Why do you keep trying, old man? Don't you realize that the world has passed you by, old man? Why don't you just retire already, old man? Don't you realize that the ladies ain't got time for worn out has-beens like you, old man? Don't you understand that you missed the boat, old man? Why are you still breathing, old man? Are you draining this economy, old man? Why don't you just get out of the way and give young folks their chance, old man? Why don't you just lay down and give up the motherfucking ghost already, old man? Why don't you just die already, old man? Why don't you just die? The world doesn't understand that the all is mind and the universe is mental. Even as the body cannot live without the mind, likewise, the body cannot die without the mind. And my mind ain't ready to die. With the right mental forces, gray hairs, wrinkles, and problematic organs can be fixed. It's all a matter of tapping into the quantum field of limitless potential, into the nothingness that is everything, into the infinitesimal infinite. The body can always be repaired, but it starts with the mind and the planted seed thereof. Then again, this corrupt world is fully aware of such divine knowledge and sacred alchemy, doing everything possible to keep the masses from obtaining them. The ascension of humanity will destroy the New World Order and set everyone free. For that reason, American society resents the working class elder who has the wisdom of experience, the understanding of decades, and a body that remains healthy and strong. The New World Order does not want a wise working class elder who still has the youthful strength to carry out that wisdom and teach the younger generations how to overcome. And furthermore, this society that values profits over people will not wait until your hair turns gray when it tries to drain your ass to death, young man. They're already trying to rob you of all your future benefits and present day savings in order to eliminate more taxes for the billionaires, young man. They want to use your tax dollars to fund their for-profit global colonial genocides, young man. And they openly commit these vicious acts of military aggression in order to terrorize you into submission, young man. They want you to stop talking about violent crimes against humanity on social media, young man. They want you to stop denouncing American fascism and capitalist tyranny on social media, young man. They want you to stop exposing their propaganda and gaslighting tactics on social media, young man. They want you to own nothing and be happy, young man. They want you to be happy with owning nothing while they own everything, young man. They even want to own your very soul, young man. Do not let them own your very soul, young man. Do not let them usurp the narrative of your own divinity, young man. For the universal consciousness of the infinitesimal infinite that lives in me also lives in you, young man. Pursue the inward journey. Live the silence of all sounds in one. Learn deeply and understand. One meditation contains the sum of all eternity, the mind of the all. And peace.
Classic Ken Scott spoken word from Ken Scott. Ken Scott, sorry. It was going so well for a moment. My apologies. Let me try that again. Classic spoken word from Ken Scott. Ken, well done. Thank you so much for being here. Great job. Round of applause for Ken Scott. On deck after our featured reader will be Christopher Bogart, which brings us now to our featured reader, Gilbert Arzola. Gilbert is a poet who I discovered through the daily Rattle poem email that comes out through a poem that was sent out late last year, I think, called My Mother Cooks. Really great poem, really great memory poem as well. And Gil has been in Rattle a couple of times, I've noticed, which is no small accomplishment if you've ever tried to get into Rattle. He is the second son of a farmer migrant worker who lives with his wife in Valparaiso, Indiana. He's an award-winning poet. He won the 2019 Passenger Poetry Contest, as well as the 2021 Rattle Chapbook Poetry Contest. Another great accomplishment. Nominated a couple of times for Pushcart prizes. He has a book out called Prayers of Little Consequence, which came out in 2019, which we'll post a link to later, as well as the chapbook Death of a Migrant Worker. And his work has appeared in a number of cool places, including Crosslimb, the Elysian Review, the Notre Dame Review, Palabra, the Tipton Review, Craft, a Centos Review, and as I mentioned, Rattle and more. I'm very excited to have you with us tonight. Gilbert, thank you so much for being here. Please welcome our featured reader, Gilbert Arzola.
Hello. You can hear me okay? Yes? Cool. Okay. Well, thank you so much. It's quite an introduction. Let's see if I can live up to that. I'm just going to read a few poems here. The first one is called Hands. Uh, it's not published, but I just wrote it recently. They tell me that I look like my father, but I don't have his hands, his calloused hands, hard and brown like the old leather gloves that fell out of his pocket and were left out in the rain. My father's hands were hardened by the holes he had to dig. They grew harder still from the things he had to bury. My father had a good face. It's mine now, and I've tried to use it wisely, but it's his hands that I remember. They were the strongest hands I'd ever seen when I was 6 years old. I could not imagine hands stronger. I watched him spend these days off under old cars, pulling at stubborn bolts. He had hands that understood trouble. Reaching, prodding, hanging on, hands that were always moving, until finally his hands were calm, laid across his chest on the day that he died. My father had yellow hands when I was 10 years old, stained from the insecticide he spread 10 hours a day on farm fields every day but Sunday. I remember the scent of it on him, sunk so deep you couldn't wash it off or cover it with the old spice he splashed on his face on Friday paydays like it was holy water. My father had good hands. I don't think I have them. Maybe I have my mother's hands, her long, gentle fingers wilted with the chores of a migrant worker's wife, chores that would never be finished and could not be tossed into the weeds with the dishwash. Scrubbing dishes in a white porcelain basin is what I remember, her face glancing up out to look out the dusty kitchen window occasionally at a yard of sandburrs and weeds. It was where her dreams lived, beyond the farm fields. I remember that, and how she pushed laundry through washing machine rollers out in the back, while a breeze whistled through the clothesline, and in the distance, tractors carved straight lines. Maybe I have her hands, hands intended for other places, hands that should not have belonged to a migrant worker's wife. Or maybe I have my grandfather's hands, crooked from the breaks that did not heal right, breaks that remembered. They were the hands he used for eyes, to poke at a world he could no longer see after he went blind. Hands that hunted for open doors to walk out of and for windows to open. I have all their hands, probably, parts of them, carved into me like initials into trees, carved into my sinking soul that aches for them all. This next poem is called If We Knew Then. If we knew then what we know now, then Ernie would never have paid attention in math class. He would have lived inside of a daydream and counted the birds outside the window instead of calculating angles. He would not have worried about grades or college because none of that would help him in prison where he was sent for killing his wife, where there was nothing to add but hours and days. And if we knew then what we know now, we would have told Daniel that there was no need to have a patio built of brown bricks and mortar by serious men who measured twice, as if they meant it to last as long as fossils. He would not have built what is useless to dead men who hang themselves from rafters. And if we knew then what we know now, the teacher would not have been angry or shaken Richard awake. Instead, she'd have let him sleep, maybe covered him gently with a blanket and told the others to be quiet, with a finger pressed against her lips. Maybe she would have provided a pillow where he could rest his head, because he'd have no rest and get no sleep in the jungles of Vietnam, where a man he never met shot him twice, and he died face down in tall weeds. Sorry, my papers are rattling a bit here. This next poem is called A Chore Undone. It's about a man that I worked with when I was between college, the army, and trying to find my path. Uh, I think there are heroes that are all around us all our lives that we don't notice, that don't get into the newspapers. Uh, this is about him. Bob feeds the hogs with one hand since he lost the other. When he had two, it didn't take as long, and he could sit at the tavern in the afternoons, trading lies. When he had two hands, he could carry twice as much. He could point at the sky with one and keep the other in his pocket. But Bob only has one hand now, and so he feeds the hogs with it and carries wood, while the stump of the other he hangs as useless, he says, as tits on a boar. The combine took his hand a harvest ago. He was alone in the field and put his hand where hands don't belong. The combine didn't know the difference between corn and a man, and so to be on the safe side, it took them both. After that, every morning as I drove by, I could see Bob trudging through mud and February snow, speckled black, to make the 10 trips that used to be 5. 10 that used to be 5. But he doesn't complain. The chores don't count hands, he says. There's work to do, and so he does it. Impatiently, the hogs holler and complain, pushing at each other like old women at sale racks. The February snow bites at Bob's whiskered face, pausing now and then, and for an instant the world goes quiet. The wind and the hogs don't ask what happened or how he's feeling. It's all the same to them. There are chores undone. For the last week, the neighbors have fed the hogs, since Bob is dead now, and at the bar they tell the story. He was alone when the combine took his hand, so he doesn't know, so no one knows if he screamed or just yelled or just said fuck. They only know that he showed up at the hospital, driving himself with a shirt wrapped around a stump where his hand should have been. 4 weeks later, he was back feeding the hogs, and no one ever heard him complain or ask for help. Bob minded his chores until his heart said to stop. The next poem is called Talking to Walls. It's in 3 parts. 1. I don't know if walls can talk, but the ground can. It remembers tended gardens returned to weeds, shortcuts beneath poison ivy and ragweed carved by children running from their monsters. In that group of trees, can you still see it? A house stood and 5 lives passed. One son went to war and came back someone else. Another counts slow days in an Arizona desert. The last son, the youngest and the most gentle. We don't know what happened. We can't say. We just don't know. They're gone like the house that is only an echo now, a whisper behind thick brush, a home for rabbits. 2. Up on a hill 200 yards north, where the ground is flat, poor people buried each other 200 years ago. The ground still holds tight their graves without stones to mark them. Go ask the dirt. It can explain. It can still feel the sharp, indifferent blades of shovels. 3. I don't know if walls can talk, but if they do, they speak in tongues. They stammer and mention lesser moments, the closing of doors, the opening of windows, the wishes of young girls and dreams of poor boys stuck in oval walls beneath 5 coats of paint. I hear the ground whisper with each step that I take. It talks like old men gathered on benches, their faces hidden beneath floppy hats, balancing their coffee atop fat bellies, waiting to die. There are too many stories to hold in your hands, they say to each other, too many to defend in only one lifetime. And still the ground speaks with each poke of my boot. Please listen, it says. Please. I want to read a poem from the chapbook that Rattle published called The Death of a Migrant Worker. It's called Childhood Homes. We lived in 5 different houses when I was growing up, and this was about one of them that I went back to visit that was no longer there. Where the bushes are now, a house once was. See there, where the branches are twisted together like skinny arms hugging air? You'd think it was one thing instead of 2, until you look closer and follow to its roots. Right there where the branches are highest, there was a window and a boy looking out. My life is passing. The snow melts, and another day will become water and disappear into the ground. Over there, across the fields, you can count 1, 2, maybe 3 trees I used to climb. Walk there, and you can ask each blade of grass on the way to tell you my name. This next poem is from the book that was published by Passager, um, Prayers of Little Consequence. It's about my mother. My mother was a very religious woman, a very Christian woman, and I didn't share her faith, I guess. Um, it's called Why My Mother Believes. Without ever having seen it, the stream knows there is a river. Even a drop of rain can remember the ocean. How can you believe? I ask her. It's in her bones, she says. She feels it. The way a butterfly's wings can raise the curtains with a breeze. Look there, she says. Ground, a tree, the morning. And lastly, this poem is called My Obituary. I tried to matter. I tried to keep the lawn mowed and the music turned down. I didn't want to disturb anyone with poetry. I didn't want to make a fuss and tried to only take up the space that I needed to spread my arms, but not too far. I wanted to pass as unnoticed as the breeze that tossed your hair as we walked this morning. I tried to matter. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Gilbert, we noticed you tonight and you matter to us deeply. What a stunning set of poems that you shared with us. I'm glad you ended with the obituary. Yet I hope you write many more poems. I guess you wrote that in advance of your need for it, and I hope a lot more work comes along before anyone has to. There's a need for that as opposed to just a desire to hear it. I also want to mention that we're going to start a fundraiser to help get you your father's hands if that's what you truly want. A lot of great lines, many of which you should read the chat to see what resonated with people, but some that I typed in by serious men who measure twice made a lot of sense to me. Heroes all around us, people who don't get in the newspapers, I thought was a really cool thing to say and to acknowledge. Go ask the dirt, it can explain. I saw a lot of people type that one in too. A lot of wonderful material. Gilbert, thank you so much for sharing it with us. I'm going to paste some stuff into the chat and share the image of for the broadside that I made for the poem that you read for us. There it is, Childhood Homes, another nice nostalgic piece from you. People can download this now at the Cobalt Poets website, poetrysuperhighway.com/cobalt. It's an 11 by 17 print if people would like to have it. This is our method of compensating our featured poets. I hope that you'll download it and consider, quote, paying for one by perhaps sending Gilbert a tip. I've pasted Gilbert's Venmo ID for electronic tipping, for dropping some tip in the virtual hat via Venmo this time around. Please consider doing that. And then there's two links to Gilbert's older book, Prayers of Little Consequence, one on Amazon and one at bookshop.org, depending on where you prefer to get your books. I'm not sure if you can get the Rattle Chat book unless you're a subscriber. Do they make those available if you're not a subscriber to Rattle, Gil? Do you know?
I truly don't, but if you have my email, if you can share that, I have copies, and I will gladly send it to you. And if someone would like it.
That's a nice offer. Let me know if anyone wants it, and I'll be happy to hook you guys up so that can happen. It's just a complete aside. I don't know if anyone here subscribes to Rattle, but besides getting their monthly print issue, you get chapbooks periodically throughout the year just for free from their contest winners. And one of the cool ways you can subscribe to Rattle and get all of these things is by entering their contest, where you could potentially win thousands of dollars for entering a single poem. And regardless of whether you win or not, you automatically get subscribed to Rattle for the year, as well as receive all these chapbooks and stuff. So it's a pretty cool thing to do, I think, and there's always a lot of great stuff in there. Gilbert, thank you again for being here. Really a wonderful set of poems, and please come back and read for us again.
Well, thank you again for asking me, Rick, and I will happily read again. All you gotta do is ask. Okay. Thank you so much.
Well, in case I tend to not repeat featured readers on Cobalt, but if you do want to come back and participate in the open, you will be greeted with open arms. If you got a new poem and say, "I just got to get this out there," every Tuesday night, like clockwork, we're here. Which I say confidently, knowing that I'm taking a week off next week. So, but mostly we're here all the time on Tuesdays. So really appreciate it, and thank you again. Another round of applause for our featured reader, Gilbert Arzola. All right, as I mentioned just before we get to the rest of tonight's open reading, next week I'm going to be out of town, so we won't be having a reading. Speaking of Rattle, I'd originally had scheduled Tim and his wife Katie, who have a new book out of poems that they wrote together, but a personal situation came up and I had to reschedule them till later in the year. So I've got them back on the books for September. Tim is the publisher of Rattle, in case I didn't make that connection. So I haven't yet found someone for May 27th, which is the next time we're having a reading. I've got a couple invitations out, and we'll see if anyone replies. We will for sure be having a Cobalt reading that night, even if it ends up being just an open reading. And if it ends up being just an open reading, maybe we'll just go nuts and let everyone do 3 poems. I don't know. It could be a crazy night. We'll see what happens then. So there you go. More on that as we get closer to that. So here's who I have on the list for the rest of tonight: Christopher Bogart, Denise Dumars, Martin Parker, Richard Loringer, Jeffrey Bryant, Linda V. Crawford, Bill Gaines, Michael G. Hickey, Heidi Casa, Dig Wayne, and me. If anyone would like to add themselves to the open reading list and you haven't done so, just send me a message in the chat. I'll be happy to add you. As a reminder, it's 2 poems maximum. Less is more is the suggested time limit. And that's it. Let's plug forward. On deck is Denise Dumars. Please welcome now Christopher Bogart. Hello, Christopher.
Hello, Rick. I'll be reading 2 poems tonight. I'm a retired English teacher who taught for 36 years, the last 25 of which I taught in a public school 2 towns over from here in Long Branch, New Jersey. I mention that because both these poems have to do with something that I find, and I think a lot of us do, absolutely horrifying. And that's what's happening with how this particular administration is treating migrant workers and the horrendous treatment they're being given. It is frightening. My son is dating an undocumented young lady, and so we are always worried. So I would like to read 2 poems. One of them, I'm probably going to share the screen just because it's easier for me to read them. But one of them is called An American Tragedy, and what I did was I wrote a full-length Greek tragedy, but I'm not going to read that to you. I'm only going to read a piece of it that I put in another book, a shortened version. This is called An American Tragedy, and it's written pretty much in the same meter and with the same style that Euripides wrote his plays. The epigraph is, "I see America through the eyes of the victim." I don't see any American dream, I see an American nightmare. That was Malcolm X. When the wind from the south threatens all in its path, when the helpless flee lands plagued with blight, fraught with wrath, then the tired, the poor migrate north to survive, journey north with their children to keep them alive. They arrive at our borders with hope of escape. They are met not with hope, but with fear and with hate. America is no longer the land it once seemed. A nightmare has replaced the American dream. Adonde llevas a nuestros hijos? Where are you taking our children? Wir bringen die Kinder zum Baden. We're taking the children to bathe. Mama, their voices cry out in sheer terror. Poppy, they cry out between broken sobs. They're contained within chainmail fencing, given water, bags of chips as their bread, foil sheets instead of warm blankets on the cold concrete floor for their bed. Taken to tender age shelters in Raymondsville, Brownsville, and Combs, and a fourth that will open near Houston for infants and toddlers, some just 8 months old. Older children are brought into cities at midnight, transported in unmarked cars, walked down dark city streets, faces covered in masks so that no one will know who they are. Toddlers sit all alone in strange courtrooms. Huge headsets envelop their ears. A judge presides from a throne high above them, asking questions. They nod their responses through tears. 6 suicides have been attempted, molestations, and just a few rapes. Hundreds injected to keep them sedated. 9 died, and a few have escaped. Mommy, I don't want to leave you. Poppy, please let us stay. Mommy, I'm so very frightened. Poppy, don't let them take us away. They arrive at our border with hope of escape. They are met not with hope, but dispassionate hate. America is no longer the land it once seemed. A nightmare has replaced the American dream. And then the second poem is about what we saw happen about a month ago when 236 men without benefit of due process were sent down to a jail in El Salvador. If you've seen that, they were frog walked. And that's what the title of this poem is, Frog Walk. Darkness shrouds a cowardly kidnap, heads shaved, hair no longer theirs, wrists cuffed, hands laced behind backs, arms bare, blue ink drowned in sea of black. Fright, wet with sweat, hangs, threatens chilled night air. Pungent smell, ammonia, in warm trickles, trails terror down shivering brown limbs, soak sneakers with troubled dreams. March lockstep, frog walked, face forced down, view tarmac of black asphalt, black tar, last view they have of home that seems no longer cares. No due process offered, no proof of perpetration, condemned forever to tribulation in Sikot hell. Their captors yell, keep walking. Thank you.
Christopher, thank you. America is kind of a terrible place right now for a lot of people, and if you have a social conscience, probably it's a terrible place for you too as well. Thank you for continuing to shine a light on that, and I truly hope it makes a difference. Thank you for being here tonight. Round of applause for Christopher Bogart. On deck, Martin Parker. Please welcome last week's stellar featured reader, Denise Dumars. Hello, Denise.
Hi, I'll just read one tonight. I had another weird phrase come to my head, this one when I was driving home on the freeway from the Gem Fair in Costa Mesa. And the phrase orchid dusk suddenly popped into my head. Orchid dusk, Lower the clouds, make a softer sort of sun, tinged with orchid, everything soft gray, muted colors. We've had too much of non-magical light, need to pillow in the orchid dusk. When the feline fur blues its gray and purrs with dusty drums, smile along to remembered joys of more merciful days, paint with plum and azure. Kneeling before the gods of happier times as they beckon you to their cirrus beds in the orchid dusk of older glories. Thank you.
Denise, thank you. Nice poem. Thanks for sharing it with us. I saw you react to a Doctor Who themed post earlier this week, and I just like you all the more as a result of that. So thank you so much for being here tonight and all that. Round of applause for Denise Dumars. Richard Loringer, you're on deck. Please welcome now Martin Parker. Hello, Martin.
Hello again, Rick. So I haven't been writing a lot of elegies recently, but I have just finished one and gotten approval for its being read. So this is an elegy for the mother of my best friend from high school, who became like a second mother to me in many ways. We used to just drop by and visit when we were going up to Pennsylvania to visit people, and they'd let us stay overnight after my parents moved out of the area. So this is called Diana. Your greeting would ring as we entered the door. We had to remove each outdoor shoe to walk beyond the dining room floor. That first time after school with your son, of the two you had, the elder one, whose thoughts soar through heights of higher math, with whom I shared counters a few, both cosmic and round a game board or two, though later I'd follow a different path, and music we both came to love so true. I'd soon be greeted by your second son with bear hugs awakened at odd times of day, absorbed by dungeons constructed at night, while into security he'd find his way. And after we entered the collegiate wild, surprisingly arrived your final child, who'd glide through the air, then retreat to her room to hide from the world an exasperated groom, while dealing with life, when dealing with life would overwhelm, she'd lose herself in an online realm, occasionally appearing to proffer some tea, then back to her quest across some far-off sea. But you were the one who we came back to greet whenever we'd randomly drop by to sleep on the fold-out bed on the living room floor, with cuckoos softly chiming the hour, and dragons exploring distant moons, nestled in pages of fantasy books, beyond the gifts of anonymous tunes, tucked away in their cozy nooks. We'd hear the warmth of your vibrant voice ring out with joy at the chance to share your latest discovery of treasures so choice, or bargains you'd found since our last time there. You asked me to help you to learn the tones of the Middle Kingdom's challenging tongue at the dining room table, as ever adorned with letters and tidbits from foreign lands, like gifts of stamps from Romanian friends, Ukrainian pisanki and figures of straw that hang from the chandelier laden with canes, and art I miss that hung on the wall, including some that I had made, admiring crafts made in elegant hoops, writing down patterns in crochet code while leaning in close to check little loops. But once your more than chemical bond with your ever industrious bow-tied beau, who loved to study the stars in the sky, finally into the ether did flow. Your body would shrink till you had to don a hat for warmth on a summer's day, like the digital message you left on my phone, to tell me of one more owl you'd found. A slip of a finger caused me to sway, erasing the last words I'd hear you say. But gardens you tended with words so kind will always live on as they flow through my mind. And still I'm learning to do my part, to pass on the care that poured forth from your heart. Thank you very much, everyone. I'll put my usual links in, and if you want to hear me reading excerpts from some of my favorite sci-fi authors, I'll be featuring as a reader for Finn Vocabulary's Gather Around Story Hour on May 28th. You can put that link in there too. I might be reading some Jack Vance.
Very good. Martin, thank you so much for that. Good to hear that, and to hear that you've got a featured reading coming up with Finn. That's awesome. Thank you so much for being here tonight.
Thank you.
Round of applause for Martin Parker. On deck, Jeffrey Bryant. Please welcome now Richard Loringer. Hello, Richard.
Hi, everybody. Gilbert, that was an amazing reading. Is he still here? I think he's. I think he's still here. But anyway, doesn't matter. I'm just saying. It's interesting because like some weeks I come to this and for some weird reason, like everybody's reading a tattoo poem just by chance, or a poem about, walnuts or rebar, or, and tonight everybody's reading different kinds of poems and themes. And so I'd like to contribute to that potpourri by reading something on yet another theme. So I'm just going to read one. I don't have any more in me. This is from I've been reading a couple of these lately. They're like these ecstatic odes to everyday things, and they're from an unpublished chapbook, which means it could still be published. This one's called The Food in My Beard. The food in my beard accompanies me through the myriad twists and chores of each day's drams. Dram of drama, dram of glee, of inspiration, boredom, passion, disappointment, longing, love, and pretty much dram of muffin crumbs and tea lurking in the stiff, dark curls. Much of the day I carry them, with a spot of toothpaste too, perhaps, minuscule allies in the tide of tusks and tasks, steadfast observers of the winsome world, nomad colonies of symbionts and hierophants, whole worlds nestled in my wiry wing, and, of course, an extra little snack, should the hectic day require. They say it is a true friend who will tell you of unseemly odors and filth lingering about your person, and that is well spoke, well thought. But I am wary of taking any prescription too far, of saran wrapping moi into a freaky sterility with all the pretense of a noxious king. Imagine the hazards of imagining you as an absolute, stark and sealed, hieratic Autobot, shorn of fate and consequence, but for the imminent desires of thy omnipotent finger. Safe, sure, and how assured to be untouchable, safe as you could want, as we all want, secure and isolate as the salted plain, fearing the jut of life. Salt. Armor up, deluded one, relinquish the behungered hordes, latch the pantry door behind, sure as a ghost, seal every pore, and eat yourself from the inside out, safe, safe, safe in the cloaks of your indomitable, what did I say, pride, paternity, pretense. While really, naked as a bureaucrat, blind and fenceless, you are set upon by every manner of hungry one. Fend, oh fend and flail, for when you will not hark the feast, you will be chewed upon without repeal. For my part, I would rather join the munching spree, the cavalcade, the carnival, the cosmic fish fry, gaily and unresolved. That's the wrong word. Gaily and unsolved as a true born sow, masticating a maverick rue, slobbering and gibbering, chewed and chewing in a comic heap of metabolic protocol. And yum, 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 what a party it will be. It has been, since the first twisted chemical deemed it downright tasty to absorb its fated lover. And off we bound, animated mulch, unbound in a freaky omniphagic stew, two brewed beans in a sentient vat, meat-drunk mammals in a food chain, food court, Ouroboros orgy of the absolute galactic wok. The food in my beard reminds me of life, of luck, of the food I am, the food you'll be, the food we all enact. And I will love my every bite, and I shall strive to be eaten well. And I can only wonder at, I can only hark in awe, what sexy beard I linger in myself. The food in my beard. Sort of an epic.
That was a lot of fun, Richard. And you've given me some great ideas for our next themed reading. It's either going to be Join the Munching Spree, Richard's Omnipotent Finger, or, of course, the obvious choice, Walnuts and Rebar. So we'll get back to you on which one we go with. But great ideas. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah.
All right, round of applause for Richard Loringer. Fun poem on deck. Linda V.E. Crawford, please welcome now Jeffrey Bryant. Hello, Jeffrey.
Hi. I shaved, Richard, so I think everything is all nice and clean in there. But anyway, I'm going to read two poems. First one is called I Love You. I love you. Not even enjambment can separate us. I lit a blunt against the cover of your chapbook. Have a drag. Show me how sweet you taste when you hold still and we become contrapuntal. We'll bed down early, wrap together for dear life, so I can hear abods forming inside you and fall asleep to owl haiku. Second poem. Opposables. My thumbs stare at each other when I put my palms on your naked legs. I'm sure there's longing between them. When I fold my hands, they kiss without my knowing. I folded my hands through a lifetime of movies and all their opposites attracting. I folded my hand into yours and felt no opposition. I type out anger when I read about opposition to me and my same-sex desire, using only one thumb that asks me on occasion, can the other one type sometimes? In a river, I baptized the opposites out of you, with the authority vested in me by being alive, and filled the river with gender floating on the surface, and you were reborn as fluid. And God smiled, the same God we binary in prayers, the same one who becomes benevolent when we flip their pronouns, all motherly and kind, with incense and black lights. Come over here, which is the opposite of over there, and lock opposable thumbs. Kiss me at length where I store all my promises. Thank you.
Wow, Jeffrey, that's one of those poems I just want to quote every single line of and say, see how great this is? Look at every single one of these lines. Really stunning poem. Well done.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jedi Master Jeffrey Bryant reading poems from his freshly shaven face while one of his thumbs does God knows what. Round of applause for Jeffrey. On deck, Bill Gaines. Please welcome now Linda V.E. Crawford. Hello, Linda.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you so very much. I'm going to share screen, not because there's art here, but just to help follow with my poem. I'll only read the one poem. You'll hear me use the word, and you can see Bajan in the third line of this poem. Citizens of Barbados, we call ourselves Bajan. In the formal way, you would see Barbadian, but no one says that. It's a memory poem. Sweeping pennies. I say this looking back to when Bajan 1-cent pieces, copper brown, the size of an American quarter, were big enough to make a child's mind rich. American pennies, their tiny brownsome, shiny new or corrosive green, were too much work for a mother who always cared, yet could not fathom, would sweep those bitty browns lying in dog hair, in spilled grains of rice, in grit of nutshells, in strands of skein thread, in dust, in the advent of America. The bending over to pick up small after small, the smell of metal no match against the memory of a hefty 1-cent copper piece exchanged for tamarind balls, sugar cakes. I've inherited the scooping of dustpan, angle of rough straw bristles, hand to broomstick, back curved low. What about the pennies? Bending over seems useless. It becomes easier to sweep, not to worry cuticles against linoleum, sort little money in big America with careful, conscious brushing. What a thing to recall now in a time of houses gone. What a time to remember the discarding. I once asked an Alabama friend, what shall I do? Put them in a penny jar, she told me. My immigrant eyes still see those pieces of metal my mother swept into the throwaway. End of poem. Thank you so much.
Wow, Linda, another fantastic piece from you, and continuing the theme of the evening, which is fantastic poetry from our people. Linda, thanks for being one of our people. Yeah, think of how rich you'd be if you'd saved all those pennies in a jar.
Thank you.
At
yes,
this point.
it's amazing. A different immigrant experience. I thought, let me share that. It started when the current president referenced pennies, and I thought, what is it about pennies that I remember? So there you go. You never know what will trigger a poem.
You never do. And being open to letting anything do that, I think, is the key. So well done.
Thank you.
Linda. Thank you so much for being here. A round of applause for Linda V.E. Crawford. On deck, Michael G. Hickey. Please now welcome Bill Gaines. Hello, Bill.
Hello, and thank you for having me. Good evening. Excuse me. This one is called Read Me to Sleep, Tracy Thorn. If you don't know who Tracy Thorn is, by the way, she was the singer from a band called Everything But the Girl. Get to know them. Look them up. Read Me to Sleep, Tracy Thorn. Okay. Read Me to Sleep, Tracy Thorn. Dr. Seuss, if you please, or maybe the one about the whale. Charm me with your velvet and take me to that dreamscape diner. Let me bring my own interpretation later. Let me love the sweet nonsense of dancers on checkerboard, twisting and twirling like smoke under heaven's blue fluorescent lights. I have one more. This is called Calm Ocean Fast Boat. Even a calm ocean is a bumpy ride in a fast boat because it's an ocean, not a pond. And for all its flatness, you've still got waves. And a good fast boat leaps level to level, and they always push it up and they always let it down. And neither captain nor passenger controls the waves. We adjust or we barf, and that's all there is to it. And that's it.
Two nice little poems from you, Bill. Thank you so much. I feel the desperate need to send posters or photos or artwork to put on the wall behind you.
You don't like my dusty old corkboard?
I like it very much. I just sometimes look. You do you. You don't have to take my my passion for artwork to be seen there. I just want to make sure you're happy. That's all.
There's art on the wall that we can't see.
And I see it's green, so you've got something going on there. That's good. All right, good. I feel better.
This is the work wall. Don't pay attention to that work.
Sure. No. This is a job for all of us too, so it makes sense. Bill, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for your poems.
Thank you for having me.
Round of applause for Bill Gaines. On deck, Heidi Casa. Please welcome now Michael G. Hickey. Hello, Michael.
Hello, Rick. Hello, Rick. Well, Bill, it does look a little institutional. I mean, if you told me you were in a maximum security facility, I would believe that easily. So, in any case, I'm teasing you. I have two poems tonight. The first one I'm reading in public tomorrow night. Cheryl will be usually there. She won't be there tomorrow night, but she's doing better. And it's an ode. It's to this poet Jack McCarthy, who was a international champion of slam poetry. And so I'm going to be reading this. His widow will be there, his kids, a couple of grandkids even. It's called Soda Fountain, an ode to old John. Slapdash, backlash, succotash, waltz. Daddy drinks the chocolate shakes, Mama likes the malts. Little Petey's root beer floats, Jan's banana splits. Nostalgia is a shark skin suit. Amazing, it still fits. A man is singing to himself, the jukebox, his best friend. He has a cane. He's kind of old, and he can see the end. But it's clear he has no fear. Of this much he is sure, that death is not the end of life, just the next adventure. And when the family drives on home, content in their new car, they talk about the singing man admired from afar. They seem to know he loves this world. He's lived a lot of years, and he'll live a million more, my friend, 1,000,000 miles from here. So that's my attempt at an elegy. This next poem is for the first poetry teacher I ever had. It was at the University of Arizona. I went there as a fiction writer, and wow, she lit me on fire. This is in 2008. I was elected Poet Populist of Seattle, and I thought like the poetry community would kind of rally around me like Cobalt does. And it was like a lot of people wouldn't even talk to me. So I was in a bad mood when I wrote this. It is for the most wonderful person in the world, though, Stephanie Hallgren. And I wrote it on 5/21/11. It's called The Cage Door. Know this, that for every phony from Catcher in the Rye revered by applauding saguaros, player pianos, and accolades standing in line, there's an antidote in a long white dress with strawberry hair. I know ballyhoo and people famous with a small f whose peanut is more like a shell, or the 2 rodent parts per million allowed in canned chili. I'm ashamed to admit I sometimes beg them to tattoo my scars with their approval, but it is a lucky sleep indeed to dream of you, or at least the idea of you, the leap second to correct atomic clocks, blue mountains and love, the whisper of hands praying in supplication. Every day, someone predicts the world is going to end, but the only revelation I see is a river running with hope, because haven't you heard? The eye of the storm is myopic. The door of my cage has been lifted. Thank you.
You got to find your people, Michael, and apparently we're your people.
Yeah, I mean that's COVID was a horrible thing, but it brought me to Cobalt, and Cheryl misses you guys terribly. I really hope she'll be back sometime in May. I think it's going to be more like June though, but yeah, it's family to me.
Yeah, us too. And I'm glad to hear that about Cheryl. And I did see her being a little bit active on social media this past week. So glad she's got enough of her wits and abilities about her to do that. And looking forward to having her back in full force when she can. So thanks for keeping us up to date on that. And thank you for being here with your work.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Now go clean your room. Round of applause for Michael G.
I'm waiting
Hickey.
for Bill to do that for me.
He does keep it clean over there. On deck, Dig Wayne. Please welcome now Heidi Casa. Hello, Heidi.
Hi, Rick. Hi, everybody. I just want to say that I'm sorry. Last week I had to bail last minute. I was supposed to read, and then I had a family situation come up. But I'm glad to be here this week. Glad to hear everybody, and it's been great so far. I have two. The first one is mine, and the second is a cover. The Lid and What's Inside. After Chris Isaac's Wicked Game. Smoke curls upward, swallowed by the ceiling's cavern. Downturned eyes, just before lifting. Demure gaze to meet you. Warmth on an ear of a whisper for one. The tearing off of a wrapper and other light, gauzy enclosures. A tornado's twist in a pure white blank sky, watching swollen blue-gray rain clouds. A cowboy boot tap before a lightning flash illuminates. Ash in the mouth, a thief of other tastes. The first eye stretching its wings, and voluminous wind careening overhead. The last eye trailing off from a cliff fall, ricocheting off rocks, returning down the throat. The voice rising higher as eyes close softer. A tornado's twist hidden under a placid lake. The lament and its lover. The trap and its answers. With you, repeated, far more than the song says. His voice the gate, blocked to wanting, but opening for her, like the heart is a balloon he's trying to save from rising with his dropping voice, singing the balloon down when it's already tied to the post. And this one, I wanted to read this one last week, but I didn't get a chance, like I said, because I heard Ken read last week, and then I was like, this would fit with this, I think. This is from Diane DePrima's Revolutionary Letter number 75, which is known as Rant. So just part of it. What you find out for yourself is what you select out of an infinite sea of possibility. No one can inhabit your world. Yet it is not lonely. The ground of the imagination is fearlessness. Discourse is videotape of a movie of a shadow play, but the puppets are in your hand. Your counters in a multidimensional chess, which is divination and strategy. The war that matters is the war against the imagination. All other wars are subsumed in it. The ultimate famine is the starvation of the imagination. It is death to be sure, but the undead seek to inhabit someone else's world. Thank you.
Thank you, Heidi. Glad you're back with us, and you didn't leave suddenly last week because we all horribly offended you. Or something ridiculous like that. And glad you got a chance to read that poem. What a great piece from Diane DePrima. A video of a movie of a shadow play. That's like triple Inception madness, I'd have to say.
Yep.
Thank you for being here. Round of applause for Heidi Casa.
Thank you.
On deck is me to close out the open reading. Please welcome now Dig Wayne. Hello, Dig.
Hello, Rick. Hello, everybody. I went to New York City and I came back and I'm here now. I wrote a couple of poems when I was there. This one I wrote on the way there. It's called Therefore. The skin on my back is a big barking dog today, setting all the neighborhood sleepyheads on fire. The skin on my arms climbs up to the rooftops for a better view of yesterday. My scalp pulses with regret for my selfish 30s that my mother stood up against the wall for. My bare feet use calloused language to plant seeds of dissent in gardens of rock. Bedwritten apostrophes dab my fevered brow with neither possessive nor plural emotions. My soul stays vigilant, praying for the strength to counter the malignant apoplexy creeping, circling my ankles, threatening my enlightenment. The skin on my chest is pebble dashed with fear of death, defying stunts that require the love of mankind. As I'm reading that, I'm thinking, did I read that last time I was here? I don't know. I should date my poems. This one's called The Spoils. My knees speak Spanish with a freeway accent. I inhale the rain to fill my blood with sunshine. I steal an electric bike only to swallow the locks and chains for good luck. Angel City lungs and legs come up short when big broad avenues scrape the roof of my mouth. My sense of direction leaves no prints on my memory. Uptown, downtown, left and right hand turns. The rumble of the train makes my poetry supersonic. Thank you.
Thank you, Dig. I really got kind of stuck on you should date your poems, and I don't know. I mean, like, if your wife is okay with that, I think it's something that as long as there's open communication, you should.
Well, maybe I should just bang my poems.
I mean, again,
cut out the middleman.
It's fine, but just ask your wife first. That's all I'm saying. It's either way. Martin in the chat said you should take your poems out to a movie, but again, you're right. Why spend the money if we all know where this is going?
There you go.
So you went to New York and then you came back and now you're there.
Yeah, I did. I met Puma Pearl. I'd never met Puma Pearl before. I'd heard of her a lot, but I never actually met her. So it was cool. I read some poetry there. It was a wonderful trip.
Yeah. That's great. I love going places and then being in those places and doing things there for a good amount of time before I come back home.
That's the key, 7 days. There for 7 days. It was long enough. A lot of rain, a lot of walking. It was good.
Very, very cool. Well, glad to hear a little bit of it tonight. Good luck with the new chapter in your marriage, and thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you, Rick. Thank you, everybody.
Round of applause for Dig Wayne. On the deck is, well, the rest of your lives, because I'm the last reader, I guess. So here we go. I'm going to read a couple of poems. I'm going to start with one of the last poems in my book. It's Spritz O'Clock Somewhere. I had to look at the title. That's why I glanced off to the right. I forget. This was when we were leaving. Where were we leaving? Oh, sorry. Actually, maybe it's not too close to the end. It's sort of near the end. We were leaving Italy and heading to the airport to head off to Paris for a day. That's this poem. It's called Taxi Ride to the Airport. 1. Oh no, I left my joie de vivre on top of the tower in Pisa. We have to go back. 2. I would 100% die on a Vespa in Napoli. 3. I'm mixing accents, Italian and French and maybe a little Hebrew as I give Addie a tour of the castle we are driving by. There are some bricks, and if you look over there, there are some other bricks. Don't forget to tip your guide. Addie reacts in no way at all to this tour. 4. We're driving by a barbershop called Hair on Top. Sounds like they know what they're doing. 5. They haven't updated the roads here since medieval times. Every part of me is jiggling. All right, that's that. And now I will read this. This is a poem for this week's Torah portion. It follows this line of text. You must take fine flour and bake it into 12 loaves. Each loaf must be made from 2/10 of an ephah of flour. The poem is called Ancient Carbs. I bake bread every week, which is a lie, as it's certainly not every week. I did bake bread last week. I'm planning on making it this week, though by the time you read this, that could be ancient history. I follow the recipe exactly. Whatever amount of ephahs they want me to include, I include. Whatever number of degrees they want me to bake it at, I bake it at that exact number. What flour should I use? They'll tell me, and I'll use it. Bread is a complex mystery, but one of the simplest things to make if you don't count time as an ingredient. The best bakers tell you you should always count time as an ingredient. And what an accomplishment when you've provided the most basic food through your own kitchen magic. You sustain yourself like they did in the desert, like they did in the tents of Abraham. You're ready to bake for the priests, but you're off the hook, the bread hook, because we don't have priests anymore. Just 2 loaves for Friday night will do it. Twist the dough together like we do. You can do this. Okay, there you go. Little recipe from the Torah. Thanks all for being here. Great, really great reading tonight. A lot of really fantastic work from all of our regulars, and a shout out to Gilbert, who had to take off because he's in a time zone where for him it is late, and he needed to go to sleep. But there's the stuff in the chat in case you would like to tip Gilbert for his reading. There's his Venmo ID. You can download his broadside on our website. As you know, you can get on our email list on that website. If you'd like, you can click calendar and find out what's coming up. Sort of. I can tell you for sure that next week we won't be having a reading. I'm going to be out of town. And the week after that, I'm trying to get a featured reader because of a last minute cancellation we had for that week. And I'll get back to you. But we will for sure have a reading in 2 weeks, even if it's just an open. Our opens are like the stuff of gods, right? So it's going to be fine, even if there is no featured reader that night. What else can I tell you? You can check out Gilbert's book, Prayers of Little Consequence, on Amazon or bookshop.org. And as I pasted in the chat earlier, and as he offered out loud earlier, he will mail you a copy of his Rattle chapbook just for the cost of postage, which you can probably just Venmo to him if you want. And I put his email in the chat. You can contact me if you missed it, or if the chat goes away before you decide you want to do that, and be in touch with him if you like his book. That's it, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for being here. Great night. There's the Ask All to Unmute button.
And I have unmuted.
Unmuted.
Good night, all.
Rick, that was an F a great poem.
F a great poem.
What's this?
What was the Doctor Who reference that I sort of half missed in the middle of